Welcome back to another episode of the Bear Trap on the Boomer Bust channel, a Bears podcast by a Bears fan. I'm your host Terry, and today talking about our Bears and our off season and all that good stuff. Before we start, though, I want to give two quick side stories that kind of relate to the Bears, but not directly. And I wanted to mention this last time, but I forgot. But anyway, so number one, I had a dream. I think it was last week or so. Anyway, I had a dream that I randomly became the head coach of an NFL team. It was like a comedy movie or whatever. But it was the off season, not the off season, the training camp. And I was doing like a joint practice, I guess. And I was meeting with the head coach of the other team. And I forgot which team it was, but we were talking about our plan for practice and everything. And I was throwing out some ideas, some drills and stuff that I like to do. And they was like, yeah, well, I haven't thought about that, and we haven't done that in a while, and it was all cool. And then I was talking with our people and letting them know what my plan was, like our GM and stuff. And the GM was like laughing at me. He was like laughing me out, trying to laugh me out the room. And then he started the grading, coaching high school, and how it didn't mean anything, and they didn't know football. And I was just so offended. I was angry. And then it wasn't until I woke up that I realized that GM was Ryan Poles. I was not the coach of the Bears, by the way, but that GM was Ryan Poles. Because I was looking at him and I was like, okay, whatever, in the moment. But when I woke up, I was like, that dude looked familiar. It was Ryan Poles. Now I don't like Ryan Poles, so there we go. Anyway, and the other thing is I'm doing a tournament on Madden where I've created, and I've done this before, but I haven't done it in a while, but I created like an all-star team based on the Power 5 conferences and also anybody in the non-Power 5 conference. So Justin Fields is the third quarterback on the Big Ten team, and you rotate each quarter from starter, first quarter, and fourth quarter, second string, second quarter, third string, third quarter. And I ain't gonna lie, I legitimately thought that Justin Fields would be the weak link. I was like, man, these third quarters are gonna be rough for the Big Ten team. But I have to say, Justin Fields has been doing really well. Justin Fields has been pretty effective, surprisingly. Now, whatever they do, I'm not sure, but whatever they do to replicate how the player plays, because they have traits and stuff, but I honestly, it's not too many things for the quarterback, but somehow they got these quarterbacks to play to their tendencies. Maybe they have tendencies behind and they don't let us adjust those. But anyway, they got Justin perfect. I mean, he hasn't thrown a lot of interceptions, but he takes off whenever he can. And so he's been pretty dynamic. So I got to give him some credit for that, when I really thought he was going to be the one bringing the team down. So anyway, that has nothing to do with real football, but I want to share it. So let's go into the topic at hand, which is Justin Fields in the future with the Bears. Again, if you didn't read the community or if you just didn't know, the Bears are now eliminated from the playoffs. So our little playoff push is over, sadly. And yeah, that sucks. But we still got one more game, of course, against the Green Bay Packers. And I think this week was setting up to be an interesting week one way or the other. Obviously, it could have been a fight for our playoff lives, even if we won that Browns game. But now it's a chance to play spoiler to our rival on the road. What a way to end the season. We're on a win streak, and to end it by beating the rival and keeping them from the playoffs, much like the Lions did last year to the Packers, actually, again. And we know the Lions went on the ascent this year. That doesn't mean we will next year, but still, kind of similar. So it would be a great finale. That'd be pretty interesting to see. And I know the team's probably going to be fired up. They got nothing to lose. I mean, change is coming. Change is coming. And so this is the last time this team is going to be together in general. So I'm sure outside of the GM and the owner and the press and all that, it's just the players and coaches. They all get in that tight room. And well, the room ain't tight, but they get in one room and they say, look, it's just us. Let's go out there and do it. I mean, that last game of the season is always kind of special on any level. When you potentially might, well, for us, we definitively won't be playing again for a long time. So that'll be fun. Hopefully we can keep the Packers out, and that'll be a good time. And again, Bears fan, not a crazy I hate Packers person. There's no reason to, but it'll be fun to say we kept them out of the playoffs. That'd be cool. Plus, I don't think they'll do anything in the playoffs. But anyway, so with that, this is the proper time. Remember week 2 when people were talking about Caleb Williams and what we should do? This is the proper time, not week 2. So here we are. And obviously, this is going to be a continued conversation throughout the offseason. I'm sure, much like last year, there's just going to be a bunch of sauce put on it every other day. Something new, something to debate, some report, and everybody's going to fixate over everything. And that's one part I hate. That's one part I'm looking forward to. Not having to be in this again. I mean, people don't really want to talk about the Bears, to be honest, even if we were rolling, to be honest. But if we had the number 2 pick, no one would be talking about us. But we have the number 1 pick again, and it's through the Panthers plus the Justin Fields thing. Obviously, last year was pretty much similar thing. So it's a topic to talk about. I get it. But I'm looking forward to not be in this limelight anymore, because the constant discussion is super annoying, because it brings out a lot of ignorant fans and media. But anyway, we are in that conversation now, so this will be the first of many. It seems like a lot of people, well, I'm looking at the poll, but I've heard, nationally, the narrative is that Justin Fields is just fine, and that the Bears are the problem, and they need to bring him back and build around him. So there's a couple things to break that down. But also, I put up a poll if you want to go vote too. I'm sure I'll do the poll multiple times throughout the offseason. But the overwhelming favorite, 62%, people want to bring back Justin Fields, and they want to trade the number 1 pick. Pretty much what we did last year. So, and I told you last year, it was funny because I said, do not be fooled. Like, the Bears are going to look at these quarterbacks, and everybody's, why would we look at them? Justin Fields, there's no reason to look at them. Oh, they looked at them. And just like last year, they not sold on him. So anyway, a lot of people want to bring him back. So let's just kind of break that whole thing down again in terms of bring Justin Fields back, running back and all that good stuff. So the thing is, a couple things is that when you talk about bringing Justin Fields back, and I've heard this mentioned a few times throughout the year, that whatever assets we get, we can just go get after quarterback if this don't work out. Because that's always, so my question is always, where are we getting that quarterback? So I've literally heard the exact same sentence phrased the same way. Use the assets from the trade to go get a quarterback. From where? Like, again, you had people last year, even though it was a decent class last year, quarterbacks, but you had people last year looking ahead to this year for Caleb Williams and these other quarterbacks. Are those quarterbacks there next year? Now, and I'm genuinely asking. I've not watched Caleb Williams or the rest of these guys this year, so I definitely don't know about next year. So I don't know if there's another touted class coming that people believe, oh, well, we could just go get a quarterback from there next year. because the draft is what I'm assuming. But it's the draft. We don't know what these players are going to be this year. We don't even know what the players are going to be from this draft last year, let alone the one next year. So if you're saying the draft, you just say, hey, quarterbacks are going to come every year, then okay, I guess that's one route you could take. I think that's a gamble, a big one, but you could take that. So my thing is, if you're not talking about draft, where else are you talking about? Because quarterbacks just don't come available. And I'm looking around the league and I'm trying to figure out who it is that people think we're going to go get outside of a bridge quarterback. I mean, the only one you can name in recent years has been Deshaun Watson. And I struggle with calling him a proven quarterback, but a young proven quarterback, that really you can only say Deshaun Watson, and we know that only happened because of crazy circumstances, and we see how that worked out. So I don't know who this quarterback is that people think we're going to get, because a lot of this, I wouldn't say luck, it is some luck. A lot of this is preparation, but it is luck to it in terms of timing. And so you having the assets or the pick in the right draft is more important than just having the assets. It's about who's going to be available. So it seems that the professionals, and again, I have no opinion right now, the professionals believe there is no other Caleb Williams coming. There's no question right now that if you think you just gonna run it back and get a Caleb Williams some other time, you are tweaking. And so I hear a lot of comparisons to Mahomes. CC, here's the problem for me. Even if that was accurate to say that, oh, this is the next Mahomes. Well, the first Mahomes was not a top 20 prospect. The Chiefs traded up because there was conviction in that room to go get him. But again, people love to play the hindsight is 2020. Oh, let's do a redraft. It's so stupid. Like, no. In the moment, people was not looking for Mahomes. They were not looking for Deshaun Watson. They surely were not looking for Mitch Trubisky either, but they weren't looking for either of them. And those three, well, especially those two, they were going to fall. And Trubisky probably is going to fall too. And that's the ugly truth. Now, quarterbacks always get pushed up unless they're terrible. Like, you know, I'm not going to stop talking about the draft class with Kenny Pickett in there. That was last year's, right? Yeah, I'm never going to stop talking about that draft because y'all ridiculous. The people that sat here and argue with me about Malik Willis and Matt Corral. But anyway, so 9 times out of 10, quarterbacks are going to get pushed up if they're halfway decent. So Mahomes going in the top 10 or whatever is not surprising. But if you look at it, and again, it's always the draft game, man. I'm telling you, that's the draft game because it only takes one team. So if the Chiefs didn't pull the trigger, where is Mahomes going? Where is Watson going? I mean, you have to look at Aaron Rodgers back in the day when teams did things differently. The 49ers said Alex Smith, Aaron Rodgers. They pulled the trigger on Alex Smith. And guess what? Aaron Rodgers fell to the back of the draft. Now, simply because he's a quarterback, that wouldn't happen today. But that's what used to happen when things were even. And so that was about to happen. If things were even, Mahomes and Watson were about to fall. So I don't want to hear this next Mahomes thing because Mahomes wasn't number one. Mahomes wasn't something somebody saw coming. So you could talk about play style, but we're not saying that's the type of prospect he is because the Mahomes prospect was not a top prospect. And that just drives me crazy how people talk and revise history. So that's my whole thing. But either way, if you want to take the Mahomes out of it, the professionals believe that Caleb Williams is a generational talent, and that you're not going to you're not going to likely see him anytime soon. So my thing when people say running back with Justin Fields, get a different quarterback if it don't work, I'm just like, what quarterback are we talking about? And again, I'm not necessarily saying I want to move on from Justin Fields. I'm definitely on the fence. But when people just say that as if it's a simple thing, that's always my pushback. I'm not exactly sure like that makes sense. Now, trading the first round pick for a haul, that's especially in this type of draft where there's a quote unquote generational talent. Yes, you're going to have to get somebody to overpay. And overpay is going to be a subjective discussion just like it was last year. There's plenty of people who think, and especially now, because of what Bryce Young has done and how the team looks, there's plenty of people who be like, oh yeah, we fleeced the Panthers. At the time, obviously that's not the case, because as you sit here now, I don't care if it's Caleb Williams, Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck, whoever, as you sit here in the beginning of January, that top guy is always going to have the most buzz in the world. So you can't compare end of the season Caleb or Bryce Young to early January before the draft Bryce Young. The buzz was insane. And so can did everybody say we fleeced them at time? I wouldn't say that. Like, I graded the trade like everybody else. I thought it was a really good trade. I'm not going to say it was a game-changing trade. It was a good trade. Now, we already did that once. We know exactly what we got for the number one pick. Now we got to, of course, see who's going to top that. And who's going to go out of their way for a quarterback that has even more buzz than Bryce Young. So that is not, I don't think, a narrative. That's not hyperbole. I do think when you say trade number one pick for a haul, we're going to get a haul for it. And so that could mean a lot of different things depending on how you want to break it down as a front office. Do you want to have more firepower in the future, which doesn't really mean a ton, to be honest. I mean, obviously it's good, but first round picks really activate their value in that year. And so that's one way to go. Obviously, if you got a team with multiple first round picks this year, then that might be something you pushing more towards. Now, we don't know. See, the problem is only Ryan Poles and those guys and other people in the league know what the other offers were compared to Carolina. So they will know more so how Ryan and his team think in terms of what assets they want to collect. But you could go about it a number of ways. But either way, yes, you would get a haul. You would get a bit of assets. So I understand that. I understand the value of that in terms of building key pieces in the team, which, again, as a draft person, I'm obligated to say, I would say, I'm trying to think. I don't know that there's a position in the league that you only could get in the first round. I really don't. Especially at this point in life, in 2024, I got to get used to that, where the technology is where it is. You could get players, you can find players, you could deep dive. Like they're researching more prospects than ever before. There are more outlets than ever before. I don't think there's a position, if you look around the league, to say you only can get that in the first round. I think maybe offensive tackle, just by starters, is going to lean first round. But other than that, man, like, obviously the top tier quarterbacks tend to come from the first round, but we know we could get good quarterback play from other places. So yeah, I mean, I can't sit here and say that it has to be first round or nothing, but those picks are valuable in terms of building pieces throughout the draft. Giving you more shots at it is probably what I would say, more bites at the apple. But then on top of that, of course, trade capital and all that good stuff. So yes, the draft haul is a big part of that. And then the other question then becomes, what do we do with our current draft? Now that would depend on what we get. If we were to trade the number one pick, and get 2 mid first round picks plus our pick, which is probably going to be 10. If we do our job and win against the Packers, it's going to be a little lower than that. But then we'll have 3, we'll have 3 picks in the top 20 potentially. That looks different than getting another top 10 pick plus our pick. So of course, what we get back for that will determine more, of course, what we might want to try to do. But either way, what do we want to do with the draft? No different than last year. It's kind of weird that we got deja vu like this. Do we want to stay and get a Jalen Carter or try to pick a position player like that? Or do we trade back, get more assets, go after a guy we like, a position of need, all those different things? Now, I'm going to say this real quick, because this really don't have much to do about nothing. But the discussion about Jalen Carter was ridiculous to me. I really don't I think it's very similar to the MVP discussion, where there is no clear MVP. Let me take that back. There's no clear best quarterback that's dominating. And so because of that, you start getting these weird discussions about, especially week to week. Oh, he's no longer the favorite. It's so silly. And so you start getting these weird discussions where it was just like trying to put a square peg through a round hole. I felt the same way about Defensive Rookie of the Year. I think because there was nobody overwhelming or standing out, I don't know, 5 weeks into the season, people was like, Jalen Carter. And I'm like, okay, do y'all watch? Again, the Eagles were winning. And as you know, I track certain stats. I'm like, do y'all watch these games? Do y'all really look at the Eagles are not good on defense? Even if he was having a crazy year, it would be weird for a person on a bad defensive unit to win it. Then the Eagles got even worse. He missed some games, whatever. But even when he was playing, I'm like, are y'all watching the game? I get it. You could pro football focus all day, pressure rate and blah, blah, blah. And I don't even care. I don't care if he had 15 sacks. If you watch the games, I'm like, it ain't no different than Jordan. This is all, now it's like I'm having the same conversation about Justin Fields and everybody else. It's no different. Why are we surprised the man can move? Ain't that why he was a top prospect? And so the plays he had is flash plays, followed by a lot of plays of him not doing much. And on top of that, look at the snaps. If you had somebody that you legit, because of course people want to go straight to the top, might be the next Aaron Donald. He's nothing like Aaron Donald. But even if you thought you had the next Quinn Williams, Aaron Donald, Chris Jones, do you really think they would limit his snap count like that? Do you really think they'll rotate him? I don't care if Fletcher Cox was a 5-star general decorated for the Eagles. He would be sitting on that bench and Jalen Carter would be in, or they'll be rotating Cox and Jordan Davis. So it was just weird how people tried to make him out to be something he wasn't. And then, of course, parlay that into the Bears, which is one of the most annoying things about national media and Cowboys. They try to parlay everything into a Cowboy conversation. Bears fans, I'm sure every fans do that. So now the conversation becomes about the Bears and Ryan Poles and Kenny Draft and Darnell Wright. Same thing with Pickens. Oh, well, let's talk about Velus Jones. Like, it's so dumb. Even the Mahomes thing, if you really want to get into it, the Bears passed up. The team known to pass up Mahomes. How many other teams passed up Mahomes? What are you talking about? Anyway, so I just had to get that off my chest. So anyway, my whole point being, again, that was the discussion last year. Do we take a Jalen Carter? Well, we didn't know if he would be there, but once he started to drop, should we take a Jalen Carter? What should we do? So again, very similar discussions to last year, very similar situation. And so that will become clearer as we get close to the draft, and we'll find that out. But it all starts with the question, which was really something that I just threw out there last year, and then national media started talking about it. Then the conversation picked up, but people I don't think was taking it serious. But now it's a very serious conversation. Do we stay with Justin Fields? That's where it starts. And again, I told you what people, a lot of the media chatter is. Obviously, the people voted here feel some type of way. A lot of people I see online and Twitter feel similarly. However, if you trust the quote unquote experts, the real reporters, the NFL league seems to think it's a done deal. If you trust the inside scoopers, Justin Fields' team is already kind of filling out stuff with Atlanta. Now, the good part about it is not only did Justin Fields have a really solid game against Atlanta, and so, front row demonstration, not only has he ended the season on an uptick, all of that has pretty much given us position to potentially get something more, because again, if you believe the experts, the GMs around the league and the beat reporters, they said that a Justin Fields trade conversation doesn't begin any higher than a second round pick, which makes sense. You can say what you want about Justin, but hasn't proven himself. But on top of that, it's the contract situation. We would have to pick up his 5th-year option, or they would have to pick it up. But I think by the trade window, we would have to pick it up. But even if you do that, you don't got a lot of control if you trade him for Justin Fields, and you want, if you want him long term, you got to pay him that money, but that's probably before you really get to see him. But I think you still have franchise tag rights, my guess. So I feel like you still would have some control. But either way, the name of the game right now on the analytics side is to have a quarterback on a rookie contract. That's it. That's all. That is what teams would rather have that than to have a Mahomes. I guarantee you. You may think it sound crazy, and when I say teams, I mean the front office and the ownership. They would rather have CJ Stroud than a Mahomes. That is the facts of the matter. And I can't necessarily knock them, because the quarterback numbers have gone out of control. I've been advocated for a separate quarterback scale or a salary or whatever, something. But either way, that's the name of the game. So whatever you think about Fields, it ain't about on the football field. It's about the contract. And so people don't think he's going to be super valuable in the trade. However, as I said, with Atlanta getting a front row demonstration, there is a possibility we could milk this to become a first round pick or something else. If we were to trade him, that is. So, but again, so the experts believe it's a done deal. The experts believe, and I've talked about this before in a different episode. I 100% get it. This is close to a 50-50 split for me as it is. I mean, I love a good hypothetical scenario, and this is a crazy one. Because if you're Ryan Poles, you're already on the hot seat. I honestly don't care that we won those games because we should. Personally, I don't. The owners are probably flipping, doing backflips, but personally, I don't because I called that weeks ahead of time. You just look at the schedule, and I told you before the season even started. Look at the schedule, people. Look at the schedule. That tells you what you need to know. Who you play matters. But anyway, I don't even care so much about those wins. Ryan Poles was on the hot seat with Eberflus, and I would say that shouldn't really change a whole lot. And one thing that I find interesting, also, now I'm going long-winded, but that's fine. I find it interesting at the number of defenders of Ryan Poles. Not to say that Ryan Poles has done a bad job necessarily, but the people who defend Ryan Poles, of course, they use one argument. Look at how he improved the roster. Forgetting the fact that he destroyed the roster. That was him. What are we talking about? It is, you know what? I ain't gonna say it's the same thing, but it's similar to Deion Sanders in Colorado, where it was like, I mean, this wasn't, it is not super similar, but it wasn't Deion's fault, but Deion came in with all this, and we know what happened. Then they don't win that many games, but then they turn around and be like, well, look at last year. They improved from last year. Yeah, they won one game. That doesn't mean winning 4 games or whatever they won is a good season. And so it's even worse with Ryan Poles because he's the one that caused the bad roster. And again, that's a strategy. That's a philosophy. So you have to wear that. I don't care. You know, I'm not saying that it's fireable offense itself, but you got to wear that strike on your resume. If you decide that we're going to strip down this roster and you just made such genius moves where the team was still able to win games, that'd be different. Or if you get us to a point where you build a bully and we're winning games, then obviously no one's going to think about that first year. And that's his hope. But as if we sit here today, this is only a second season, and we're thinking about that first year. I am. Apparently a lot of y'all not, but I am. So the man is the reason the roster was as bad as it was. And they're like, oh man, look how good he did. Look how good he did. And I'm not going to belittle his job to say like you had a bunch of draft capital and money. Yeah, you should have been able to build the roster. But I still feel weird because, yeah, you started the bar at ground zero. It wasn't hard to improve. The more compelling argument to me is that we improved so far. And I don't think that's the case. But if you want to make that argument to me, I think that'd be more compelling. So anyway, there's that. So either way, I don't think he should be off the hot seat or anything. So my point I was saying that a lot of people have said that I agree with is that Ryan Poles, you should feel on the hot seat. You should feel this is the pivotal year in your career. And do you want to go down swinging with a quarterback that you didn't draft? And not only that, this ain't what's a good draft class? I mean, I don't want to say 2022 because obviously that's a no-brainer. But let's just say Wentz and Goff. Let's just say that year because I don't think people were sold on both of them. They definitely weren't sold on Wentz. Wentz was like a second-round pick when in this time in January, but then by the draft, he's the number 2 pick. But so let's just say it's something like that. You don't want to go down swinging with a quarterback that you didn't draft unless it's a draft class where you like, yeah, this is clearly I'm not going to pick a quarterback just to pick a quarterback. These guys not it. But what makes it worse, that ain't the case. This is the quarterback everybody's saying is one of one. So not only would you go down swinging with a quarterback you didn't draft, you would also go down potentially as the GM that passed on the generational talent. And some people believe that is just too much to move on from. Now, honestly, I thought that was the case last year, and it is just such weirdness that it would be our team, our beloved Bears, and all you fans that have to witness this one of a kind situation where we are straight up in deja vu. But I thought that was the case last year. As much as people didn't, I thought that was the case last year. And so he showed that he was going to go with Justin Fields. Now you got less, obviously one less year, and things are a little different, but still I thought it was the same situation, and he surprised me and stayed with Justin Fields. So we'll see what they choose to do, but I don't blame him if that's where he's leaning. Now, honestly, and again, I always say kudos to you people, especially the ones in Chicago, even if you're not, that really listen to this stuff. I told you I was listening to 670 Score. I was up early getting breakfast on Sunday, and so I heard some chatter that I don't go out of my way to look at every Bears part, because most of these people I don't want to listen to. But one of the parts I was hearing is a deep dive, a lot of talk about Kevin Warren, and I don't want to get into the I forgot that man's name, our last president, because I don't care what nobody say. I think a lot of y'all Bears fans, Ted Phillips, y'all went way overboard with that stuff. But structures are always different team to team depending on how you build it. And in this structure, and I think what people have said pretty much proves what I thought about Ted Phillips. They said Kevin Warren's not in the same mode as Ted Phillips, that he is much more in the football operations. Like, he's meeting with the GM and the coaches every day. He's breaking down film. He's in film sessions. So, again, as I said before, that was not Ted Phillips. That was not the type of decision-making power he had. However, Kevin Warren does, it seems like. And so this isn't just Ryan Poles. We know the owners are going to do what they're going to do, but it seems like there's several layers of power above Ryan Poles. So I don't want to sit here like Ryan Poles is sitting at home thinking about what decision he's going to make. This ain't draft day. He's going to have to pitch and get support from a small group of decision makers, it seems like. And so if that's the route he wants to pitch, I don't blame him. I don't blame him to say, let's go get Caleb Williams, because at the end of the day, man, you want to go down swinging on your pick, just like draft day. But anyway, as far as my thoughts, man, again, it is a solid 50-50, but obviously my thoughts haven't changed on Justin Fields. I hear the discussions people say, and like I said, and you'll hear me say it all season, it boils down to your belief in the philosophy. If you really want to have a Ravens type team, I would dare say even a 49ers type, and I don't mean their roster construction. I'm talking about the philosophy, the way they play. Obviously, you got San Fran, who over the last few years have been able to get on top quick and then avalanche people. And Baltimore has played in that mode this year. That's kind of what they've wanted to be, and they've gotten better at it this year. Shout out to Roquan Smith. And so that's how they win. And they haven't necessarily, any of them, shown to be the team to have setbacks and come back, or to have the defense not stop somebody and then you win in the shootout. And so that type of team, the things got to go right. When they go right, it goes really right. When it doesn't go right, you see this is why people see shocking performances and like, oh my God, I didn't know that was possible. Yeah. And the Bears have been very much been like that, except we never had the domination part where we avalanche anybody. But we've definitely played to where we try to get up early and then squeeze the game out. And so if that's the type of team that you think can go to Super Bowls, because again, I'm not trying to be the Rams, I'm not trying to be the Bucks, I'm trying to be somebody that's in it every year. If you think that's the type of philosophy that can get you to a perennial division winner, then you're going to take a chance on I won't even say take a chance. To be honest, if you believe that, you might as well sign Justin Fields to a long-term contract. Now, that's a whole nother conversation, but at the end of the day, contracts only going to get more expensive. On top of that, if you believe that, then why should that change next year? So, because really, there's only, I think, in the simplest terms, there's only two type of philosophies you could come at it with. Well, I guess there's the third philosophy where you have a non-existent quarterback and just run the ball the whole time, but I don't think that really flies anymore in this league. But there's really only those two philosophies. You're going to be a front runner team, or you're going to be a quarterback driven team. And so that's the question. That is the question to answer. And there's degrees to that. You know, Brock Purdy ain't the same as Lamar, ain't the same as Jared Goff, ain't the same as, well, I wouldn't even say Stafford is in that category. Stafford could shoot out with you, but those quarterbacks, a Dak, people like that, those are different degrees of quarterbacks. And where Justin Fields falls in that line once he gets a supporting cast, we'll see. But again, if you believe that that's the way to win, then sign Justin right now. That's my thoughts, to be honest. I'm not saying that's what I want to do, but if that's the philosophy you're going with. Now, again, I tend to be a more quarterback-centric philosophy because football is a game of timing and space. And so I say it all the time, and I don't know how many people listen and they still don't know what I'm saying, but that's what it is. It's a game of timing and space. So that means the quarterback that can operate on time, that can operate efficiently in the pocket, is always going to give you more opportunities to make big plays. It's that simple. It is that simple. Point blank, period. And so I tend to believe, like most teams you think about, even like, say, for instance, this year with the Chiefs, the roster on offense isn't up to snuff. You still think they got a chance because of Mahomes, but when the roster is pretty decent, Mahomes is going to elevate that. And maybe that's too much of a comp, but even still, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, all these guys, those are guys that you're like, okay, down 20 in the second quarter, we could possibly come back. But down 20 in the second quarter with a lot of these other quarterbacks that are front runners, absolutely no way. Because not only can they not drive the ball down the field, they're also prone to turn it over. And you look at Justin Fields, you look at the streak. First of all, I told you we should be able to win because the teams aren't great. And the one defense that is professional and legit, the Browns, go look at that offensive production. First of all, we scored one touchdown on offense that came off a turnover that gave us a short field. Everything else, 3 and out, fumbles, 3 and out. So it's as simple as that to me. Doesn't mean it's an easy decision, but it's a simple one. Which philosophy do you believe in? And then you go from there. Once you decide on Justin Fields, then the rest you figure out. So I'm excited. Let's do it. Let's run it back. The hashtag run it back. And I don't mean running back. Now I don't sound like I'm talking about Justin Fields. I mean run back the scenario from last year. Let the debate begin. Go to the comment section. Let me know what you think. Share around. Get the conversation started. Thumbs up. Subscribe. And remember, stay up and bear down.